What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And today we're talking about a big development elsewhere in the NFL that could potentially impact the New York Giants. The Green Bay Packers are releasing cornerback Jaire Alexander, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL when healthy, but over the last 2 years, he has really struggled to stay healthy, now being released by the Packers, and off he goes into free agency where the New York Giants, could they consider signing him? Maybe. There was some reported rumors that maybe they had an interest in trading for him a few months ago prior to the start of free agency. Now, as we all know, the Giants went into free agency, spent a lot of money on their secondary, signed safety Javon Holland to $15 million per year, signed cornerback Paulson Adebo to about $15 million or $17 million per season. So is there still room for them to pursue a guy like Jaire Alexander in free agency all these months later, or are they better off sticking with what they've got? That's what we're going to go ahead and dive into in today's episode. But before we do, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on the Giants potentially pursuing Jaire Alexander in free agency?
I am doing pretty good, my good friend. And listen, Jaire Alexander becoming available today is interesting. And let's be honest, the chance he goes to the Giants is low. The chance he goes to the Buffalo Bills is probably pretty decent. The Bills, I know, Anthony, you and I were just talking about how the Bills were inquiring about him via trade. And, they have Josh Allen, obviously a really, really good team, and they kind of need another star cornerback. And Alexander makes perfect sense. But, if you're the Giants, how much money do you have to throw at him, and how could you possibly convince him to come and I guess kind of rejuvenate his career with Big Blue at MetLife Stadium in New York? And there's a couple things that New York does for you, right? It puts you on the map again, and it gives you a chance with a team that's trying to bounce back from a really bad situation. Deontay Banks, currently CB2, who is going to be starting there? I mean, it's Banks or it's Cordell Flott. I think it's safe to assume Banks will get the first crack at the job, just based on the upside there. But, if you sign Jaire Alexander, he immediately is your CB2. There is no competition. There is no position battle. So there's a couple of things to say about that. One, like, you're kind of just throwing Banks to the wolves because you're pushing off his real-time development alongside Paulson Adebo to 2026, most likely, unless Alexander gets hurt, which is likely. Then Banks kind of slots right in. You kind of take another shot of his confidence, putting him kind of on the back burner. However, you make your defense freaking insane. Alexander, when healthy, is one of the best, if not the best, cornerback in football, right? Having him alongside Paulson Adebo, having the pass rush that we have, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, the addition of Abdul Carter, Darius Alexander, Kayvon Thibodeau, you have a secondary that's going to hold up against any wide receiver room, and you have a defensive front that is going to wreak havoc against any quarterback. Those are recipes for playoff success. And the Giants, if their offense can at least be average, Anthony, you and I just said they could be the Pittsburgh Steelers of 2025. That's kind of what the team would look like. A really, really good defense with an average offense. But that is a playoff team. So, definitely something to consider there. What do you think the pros would be of adding Alexander? And what would you say if you were Joe Schoen? What would you say to him to convince him to come to New York?
I would say to him, we have the best defensive line on paper in football with one of the best young pass rushers now entering the NFL and Abdul Carter. We're hungry. We're looking to bounce back. We made major improvements to the roster, and it's now or never for us. Jump on while you still can. That would be my sales pitch to Jaire Alexander. And listen, for cornerback, nothing makes life easier for a guy in coverage than a great pass rush in front of him. And the Giants have Abdul Carter, of course, the number 3 overall pick, stepping in to the frame. You've got Kayvon Thibodeau, a top 5 pick from a few years ago, who's a good, not great player, but hey, he's entering year 4 contract year, could be a breakout. Brian Burns, we all know, is a great player, and Dexter Lawrence is arguably the best defensive player in football when he's fully healthy. At least he was playing that way before he got injured last season. So that's your sales pitch to Jaire Alexander. And then the sales pitch to Giants fans, if you're kind of anti-Jaire Alexander because of his injury history, if he does stay healthy this season, look at that defense on paper with Alexander. Adebo's now your CB2. We're all excited about him being our CB1. Imagine if he was our CB2. You've got Javon Holland, who's a great safety. You have Okereke, who's going to be another great player in this defense this year. McFadden, of course, all of the pass rushers that I just mentioned. On paper, that defense, how does that team not make the playoffs? I mean, seriously, I feel like if you were to acquire Jaire Alexander with the defense that we currently have, that would be the one move to push this defense over the top. Like, we are definitely going to be a top 10 unit, in my opinion, if the Giants were to go out there and sign Jaire Alexander and he stayed healthy, of course. And you know what? Even if he doesn't stay healthy, You said this before we started recording, Alex. If you're handing him, let's say it's 1 year, 5 million, 1 year, 10 million, whatever it is, even for half a season at that price tag to get elite level cornerback play, because when he's on the field, he is elite. There's no doubt about it. Even last year in 7 games, he had 7 pass breakups, 2 picks, a pick six, and 20 something tackles, right? So even if you're just getting him for half the season at an elite level, it's almost worth the price of admission, because that half of a season that he's going to be playing, you're going to win some games and you're going to have a much greater chance of making the playoffs in the long run just from having this guy out there for even half of the games in the regular season. So Jaire Alexander could be a sneaky, late, super impactful signing for any team, as a matter of fact, but definitely for the New York Giants, because when I look at this team right now on paper, and let me get this out of the way, I'm like the biggest Deonte Banks fan. I'm a huge believer in Deonte Banks. How many times have I gone to bat for Deonte Banks and placed the blame on everybody but Banks on this show, right? But even still, when I look at this defense, again, on paper, if I've got to find one serious weakness that could tank the Giants season, it probably is the cornerback position, because Paulson Adebo, as good as I think he is not proven as a CB1. He's never been a CB1. He had a few games last year after the Saints traded away Marshawn Lattimore where he played CB1, but then he broke his leg and missed the rest of the season. So he's never been the primary cover guy for a secondary. That's not to say that he can't do it. I believe that he can. That's why I'm high on this Giants team and defense. Paulson Adebo is a big part of that. But still, question marks with Adebo. And then the question marks with Deonte Banks are obvious. Will he take that step forward in this next season of his career? I would love to see him do it. I totally believe he can and will, but there is a high probability that he doesn't as well. So if you want to hedge your bets here, you went all in to upgrade this defensive line. You spent a ton of money at the safety position. You've got a good linebacker core as well. Maybe they could add some depth, but I think the 1-2 combo of Okereke and McFadden is pretty solid. If there is one question mark on this team, it's the outside cornerback position on the defensive side of the ball, that is. So if you want to make sure that this defense is rock solid, take away any, eliminate any questions and take away any aspect of potential fatal flaws, you go ahead, you upgrade that cornerback position with Jaire Alexander, and you are definitely talking about a defense that should no doubt finish top 10 and be a playoff caliber unit.
I mean, there's no better way to say it than that. This secondary could be absolutely special. Javon Holland's coming off a down season, but we know he's one of the best free safeties in football. Tyler Nubin, I actually absolutely freaking love going to strong safety and playing more in the box. He was so good, 71 tackles last year. He was so active in the run game. He is going to be a tremendous upgrade over Jason Pinnock. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Keep an eye on Tyler Nubin. You know, he can hold his own in coverage. He's a lot more athletic than Pinnock and has a lot better instincts and so much more upside. He's also a leader. So, you know, there's a lot of talent there. You know, Paulson Adebo, I think he is our CB1, but he's coming off a major leg fracture, and I need to see that rebound, right? Like, we paid him to be that guy. I think he's fully medically cleared. I'm pretty optimistic about him. He's a really aggressive cornerback. I would love to see the Giants be more aggressive. I know Shane Bowen has this whole treasure chest situation unfolding with the defense saying oh, you know, we're gonna have a treasure chest full of turnovers and stuff like that. I hope that they're more aggressive this year. Like they're hunting turnovers, fumbles, interceptions. This defensive pass rush should be able to get to the quarterback so fast and so furious that you should be forcing mistakes from the quarterback position. Like, there should be more interceptions. There should be more opportunities for tipped passes and more fumbles and sacks and strip sacks. Like, this team should be an absolute turnover machine. Abdul Carter should be playing a huge part in that. But, you know, like you said, this secondary, I already think this defense has the capacity to be a top 5, top 10 unit in the league. The pass rush certainly could be a top 5 in the league. I don't think that's unrealistic at all. And if you put Paulson Adebo and Jaire Alexander together, like, that secondary could be insane. The question is, right, and I will say this, you know, if you're Jaire Alexander, you want to go to a team that's needs a cornerback like this. If you want to go to the Bills and they have Josh Allen, you're the missing link, yada, yada, yada. At least the Giants have a quarterback that demands some respect now. You know what I mean? That's kind of an underrated perspective, right? Daniel Jones was not convincing people to come sign with the Giants. They were avoiding the Giants mostly. Russell Wilson at least gives you some level of pedigree to say, that's Russell Wilson. That guy is a Super Bowl winner. That guy is a playoff, perennial playoff, contender. That guy is a future Hall of Famer. He's got one of the best deep balls in history. You know what I mean? This is a player that I can play behind. I can play on the opposite side of him and trust that he's going to lead this team to at least be competent. That is a different, for situations like this where you have a player like Alexander who is going to get a lot of interest from free agent teams that want to sign him. At least the Giants have some skin in the game. At least they have a say. At least they have someone to say, like, look at us. We have a quarterback that has a history of success. Like, that is a big difference in situations like this. I'm not saying that we're going to sign Alexander, because the truth of the matter is we don't have any money. We have $3.8 million. So, like, they could restructure some more contracts. Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, like, they could do those things if they wanted to. They could cut Raheem Nunez-Roche and reallocate the money. Like, there's things they can do to sign a player like Alexander. So I'm not really concerned mostly about the financial part of it. It's going to be small deals. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but it is something to consider. I think it's more so like where he wants to play. Like, that now it becomes, where do the Green Bay Packers want to trade him to, now where does Jaire Alexander want to play? And if he wants to get his career back on track and he wants to play immediately, he'll be able to do that with the Giants. And if he does it in New York, he will cash the hell in next year.
Yeah, it really is. Like, ball is going to be in Jaire Alexander's court, right? It's going to be his decision where he wants to play. It takes two. It's not like the Giants can trade for him, like you said. It's not like they're just going to send a pick to the Packers and the Packers are going to tell him to pack his bags. He actually has some say in his decision now that he is a free agent. A couple things that I want to say, though. I want to talk about Deonte Banks and where he fits into this equation, because somebody just, messaged me on Twitter. I tweeted about Jaire Alexander, and they were like, well, what does this mean for Deonte Banks? Like, how could this even work out for the New York Giants defense? And what I'll say is this. I kind of broke down why there might be question marks about Paulson Adebo. I don't really even think I need to explain why there's question marks about Deonte Banks, but also recognize if the Giants were to sign Jaire Alexander and he would be the CB1, Adebo's the CB2, and yeah, you're talking about Deonte Banks as the CB3, but you're also talking about CB1 and CB2 being two guys both coming off of injury-riddled seasons, two guys who have injury history. Banks will see the field at some point this year. These guys are going to get hurt. Every year, cornerbacks get hurt. Name me a single season that you've ever watched in NFL history where a team's starting cornerbacks didn't get banged up for at least a few snaps or a few games, right? So Deonte Banks will get some sort of playing time this season, continue to grow, and it's only a one-year deal for Jaire Alexander. So if he leaves in free agency the following offseason, Banks should hopefully by then, going into year 4, be ready to step in, and be a CB1 or 2 for the New York Giants. Meanwhile, they can get a comp pick for Jaire Alexander walking in free agency the following offseason. So it makes sense for a long-term play at compensatory draft picks. It makes sense for development of Deonte Banks as well. I get it. We want to see him on the field. It feels like do or die after a bad second season for Banks. But hey, it really doesn't hurt to just give him even more time to grow. And I don't think that you can allow a questionable player like Deonte Banks to prevent you from signing an elite talent at the cornerback position like Jaire Alexander. And I love Deonte Banks. I think he's got potential. But you know who has more than potential? Who has proven talent? 2 second-team All-Pro selections, 2 Pro Bowl selections? Jaire Alexander. That's not potential. That's proven talent. And you can't let the potential of a questionable and high upside player prevent you from landing an elite, established, proven talent. So that's my argument for Jaire Alexander. Again, like you said, Alex, is it unlikely that this even comes to fruition? It totally is, because honestly, I think he's going to want to go to a team that's a little bit more of a contender. You asked me to give my sales pitch if I were the GM to Jaire Alexander, and I tried to give it as best as I could. But if you noticed, I glossed over the offensive side of the ball. I didn't even mention them because I know that's going to be a deterrent for anybody in free agency at this point in the offseason. Jaire Alexander is going to look at this team and he's going to say, man, that defensive line is pretty good. But he's also going to say, Shane Bowen, some question marks there. Ooh, the offensive side of the ball. I do believe in Russell Wilson. I think this offense could be a little bit better. And hey, Malik Neighbors is a star, but let's be realistic about it. It's not quite like going to the Bills, who have Josh Allen and a high-octane offense. It's not like going to the Detroit Lions, who scored more points per game than any team in the NFL last season. Those are the juggernauts that have a legit chance at winning a Super Bowl this year. If he signs with the Giants, if he wants a ring, that's not going to be the team he chooses. He's going to go to one of those teams that made it to the AFC or NFC Conference Championship game last season. Washington still has a boatload of money to spend. They have a lot more to offer Jaire Alexander than the New York Giants do. You've got other teams as well. I mean, Philadelphia is obvious. Somehow they always find a way to maneuver the cap and sign all of these players who get overlooked in free agency. Of course, you've got Baltimore. They could use some cornerback help. You've got the Chiefs. there are a lot of contending teams out there with more to offer to Jaire Alexander than the New York Giants. And that's why ultimately he's probably not going to wind up with Big Blue. But going through the thought experiment, should the Giants consider acquiring him? Should they pursue him? In my opinion, it's a no-brainer. An elite talent hits the market. If the Giants don't at least check in, they're doing themselves a disservice. You got to go ahead and search every single option possible, and you can't let questionable talents on your roster that you're hoping to take a step forward. You can't bank on Banks, right? You can't bank on a guy to take that step forward and shun away proven talent. So that's really my big take on it. I really think that when you're looking at proven players who could honestly transform a defense, Jaire Alexander is, when healthy, one of the best defensive players in the entirety of the NFL. And so for that reason, if the Giants even feel like they have a remote chance of signing him, they should absolutely try their best to pursue him and figure out the rest with Banks and these other cornerbacks later.
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is that Alexander probably gets hurt anyway at some point in the season, so like Banks is going to play. But yeah, I don't think that the Giants are going to have the best sales pitch out there, but they could sell him on the fact that that defense could be elite and it will make everyone look better, right? If that defense is truly going to be elite, I think they could be better than the Bills defense. Maybe not a better team, obviously, because of the quarterbacks, but that defense could be elite. It'll make everyone better. Any free agents will be getting paid. They will be getting nice pay raises. So like maybe that is a selling point, especially doing it in New York. I mean, going from Green Bay to New York City, not a bad upgrade in my opinion. So from a lifestyle perspective, but I definitely think that that's an interesting player to keep tabs on. I wish there was a guy on the offensive line that shook free that maybe was a little bit of an upgrade. That would be ideal, but I don't think that's usual. Offensive linemen are so difficult to find these days. But nonetheless, I am pretty optimistic about this team. I'm watching clips right now on Twitter of Russell Wilson throwing the ball, and it's like, man, like it's different. Like he is so much better than anything we've had in recent years. And it's going to be such a pleasure to like watch competent football, even though Russell Wilson is not what he was. Like he's not the guy that won a Super Bowl many years ago. He's not this like, at this point in time, like playing like a Hall of Famer. Like he's at the back end of his career, but that is so much better. Like we've been so down bad. We forget what average even looks like. I think that he's a little bit above average. It's going to be fun. Like at least even if the Giants aren't a great football team, it's going to be way more enjoyable because they're going to be close in games. They're not going to, it'll be competitive. They'll have some big moments. They'll have some big wins. The NFC East we're not just going to get bulldozed every single time you play an NFC East division rival. Like it's going to be more entertaining. At least that's what we hope, right? That's what we hope. It's impossible to say for sure, but just based on talent alone, this team should be better. And Brian Dable and Joe Shane are on the fence. Like they need to perform now. So they're giving it every last bit of effort they've got. Brian Dable is going to be giving it every last bit of effort. So I think that they're going to be better because they have to be.
And I really hope that they are, but we have said that before. So I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because, hey, this Giants team has found really creative ways to disappoint me in recent years. So hopefully they don't do that again. But no, I do agree with you. I mean, listen, back against the wall, the Giants need to win games this season. They've got a competitive looking roster on paper right now. There is no reason why they shouldn't at least have an interest in Jaire Alexander, especially considering this is a GM and a head coach who are on the hot seat. They should be making these win now moves at this point because they've pretty much been making win now moves the entire offseason. So if they're trying to win now, why would that only be to a certain extent, right? Like now that we're here, we've actually put the win now roster on the practice field. If there's another win now piece that's become available, let's try to win now. I mean, also we're talking, Alex, about a secondary, and we're talking about a guy in Deontay Banks. Fans are like, oh, I don't want to sign Alexander because I want to give Banks a legit fair shot. Cordell Flat was taking CB2 reps last week at OTAs. So I don't know how the Giants are going to sit here and say, hey, we feel really comfortable and confident with Deontay Banks as our CB2. Listen, I get it. You think he's got potential. You're hoping he takes a step forward. But again, hope is not the same thing as established talent. So you can't sit here and tell me that Banks is worthy to stand in the way of bringing in a guy like Jaire Alexander. And again, this is coming from like the biggest Deontay Banks fan. Like I truly do believe in the kid and think he is going to have a breakout season. But you know what? If we could get an elite campaign out of Jaire Alexander, it's probably going to look better than any breakout season from Deontay Banks anyway. So That's my argument for it. And I just think, generally speaking, when we're talking about this team and we're looking at potential areas for upgrade, I like what you said there, Alex. I wish that this was an offensive lineman who was just shaking free in free agency. Wouldn't that be fantastic? It's not, though. It's just Jaire Alexander, cornerback, so it's a little bit more complicated. But hey, I'm not going to complain if Jaire Alexander somehow ends up on the New York Giants. That would be a massive upgrade regardless. So we'll see if the Giants can figure out the money, if they truly are interested or not. All of that remains to be seen. But of course, as we go through the next few days and weeks, if there is any reported interest, some rumors that pop up about the Giants and about Jaire Alexander, we will update you guys right here on Fireside Giants. And also, as an update follow-up, since we're talking about guys in free agency, Gabe Davis still not signed with the New York Giants. I think he's now visiting, Alex, is it with the New Orleans Saints, was it? Yeah, now visiting with the New Orleans Saints. He's now visited by, I think, 4 total teams. So I know we kind of immediately reacted and said, oh, Gabe Davis visiting with the Giants, that connection. This is a deal that probably gets done. Not so fast. Maybe he's probably going to take his time and evaluate all of the potential options that he has. So we'll ultimately see what goes on there. And like I said with the Alexander thing, and like I'll say the Gabe Davis thing now, anything that happens New York Giants related, you can be sure to find some updates right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.